Hello there. Welcome to the Okanagan Forest Channel. And today we're going to use the Deadwood stove to cook buffalo steak the way Jim Bridger would have. A couple things I want to show you. First of all, this is a grill that I got at a restaurant store for about $1.50, and it sits almost perfectly right up on top of there. And I use that instead of this part of the stove. You could certainly use that part of the stove if you wanted to. Now what we have is buffalo steak, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on the grill here, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. There we go. Now, you know, Jim Bridger probably wouldn't have had a nice cut like this, but he would have had buffalo. And he probably also didn't have many ingredients for really cooking his meat. The one thing that he did do, though, I'm sure, is he became very much aware of the flavor of meat when it was cooked on different kinds of wood. Now the nice thing about this Deadwood stove is that you can burn any kind of fuel in it that you want. And for today's barbecue, I started the fire with a little cedar, but then I'm mostly using cherry. And cherry is the fuel of choice for this, and it gives the meat a pretty good flavor. The other thing I'm doing is I've got this welder's glove here. Of course, I can just pick that up and move it around or do whatever I want with it so that it will cook a little bit better. And if I need to add some fuel, I can do the same thing. I've got a pretty good bed of coals going in there, and the idea was to build a fire and then you can cook your steak on that, and that's basically what we've done. Buffalo is kind of a special meat. It's like most wild meats. It's more lean than what you might get in a lot of other circumstances. And for that reason, it's a great choice when you're cooking something on the Deadwood stove. Let's see how we're doing here. There we go. Look at that. Now I want to tell you what the ingredients are on this steak. Basically, again, Jim Bridger wouldn't have had many choices. Now I put a little salt on this, and then I had a little bit of simple pepper that I ground up real fine and just kind of put over the steak. And what I'm relying on is the flavor of the wood to make the steak really taste good. I'm not using any fancy this or that or the anything, steak sauce from New York City or anywhere else. This is a lot closer, the flavor that I'll get on this steak is a lot closer to the kind of flavor that I would get if I were whoops, almost lost it, my goodness, if I were cooking along with Jim Bridger. One of the things I really like about this stove is how well it works. Once you have it, I didn't have to run out and get briquettes or anything else. All I had to do was think a little bit about what it was that I was going to want to cook on it, and then think about the kind of fuel I'd use so that I would cook that steak. Now I also have here, and I suspect Jim Bridger would have used a stick. I'm a little bit luckier, but I have these, and that's buffalo meat that's been put on a skewer, and you could set it down here and cook it on this fire just the same way Jim Bridger probably would have done. You know, it's interesting to me. I think a lot of people out there get real excited about survival and prepping and enjoying the outdoors. And one of the best lessons that they can get is to spend some time learning about Jim Bridger, Jedediah Smith, Hugh Glass, and for that matter, some of the guys on my t-shirt here. Chief Joseph, Sitting Bull, Geronimo, Red Cloud. Each of these people in their lives dealt with problems and survival and emergency situations that are far more complex and difficult to deal with than most of us will ever have to deal with. There's a lot to be learned from talking to, reading books about them and learning about them. And I would just suggest that if you're interested in survival or prepping or camping or any of those areas, that's one place I would go for some great reading and good information about how to really live right. And let's see how that steak's doing. I want to keep it turning. That way it'll burn a little bit better. You know, this Deadwood stove, I'm having more fun with it than should be legally allowed. And it really indestructible. Once you got it, you're done. It's kind of like that BK2 knife that's sitting in front of the stove, or the Mora knife that I've been using Mora knives since 1969. They're great out in the woods. Or the hatchet. If you look at some of my other videos on Okanagan Forest channel, you'll constantly hear me talking about how enjoyable simplicity is. Well, these tools, all of them, the stove, the knife, the hatchet, are all simple tools that have great longevity of use in the outdoors and in the wilderness. You don't always have to go get some newfangled TV celebrity knife. Those won't necessarily be any better. I'm going to keep turning this over so that it'll cook good. I really want to tell you that this is how I barbecue steak on my Deadwood stove. Didn't use briquettes. Didn't use the grill that comes with it. I use this little guy here, and it works great. Let's see if I can get these on here a little bit. May not have enough room for everything in the first go around. Steak, Deadwood stove, you're not going to cook for an army, probably, unless you have 3 or 4 of them going at once. But you are going to do a good job, and it's going to be really frugal and economical, and that's what I like about it. Let's see how we're doing. We need a little bit more oomph down there. So let me put some more fuel in. See if we can get her going good. Here's another piece of, there we go. That's looking pretty good. Didn't take very long either. Of course, I don't have very long to. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull that steak off. It doesn't have to be cooked until it tastes like the heel of your boot. It just has to be cooked. That's a good looking steak. And that's going to taste just like what Jim Bridger would have had if he had had buffalo out on a campfire where he had some control over what it was that he was using for fuel. So I'm going to take this steak off now because it's looking really nice. Put it down there. I'm going to put these guys up. Now the process on this is a little bit different. I'm just going to keep them moving, and they'll cook just fine. Well, I hope you've enjoyed looking at this video on the Deadwood stove and buffalo cooked the way Jim Bridger would have. Again, on these I put a little salt on them and just a little ground pepper. And I'll tell you, with wild meat, the nice thing about most wild meat is it's got real flavor. It's not like that, what is it called, pink slime that you get in the supermarket. Again, simple is good. These look like they're going to do pretty good here if I'm just a little bit patient with them. Well, thank you again. And if you have any questions about cooking buffalo on a Deadwood stove, I'd love to hear from you. If you have a recipe, I'd love to hear it. In the meantime, remember, you could do lamb, mutton, you could do chicken, beef, elk, deer, and a stick like this really does help. Or a little grill like the little grill that I have.